Hello, here's a video request from Gypsy Hustled. I haven't even read this request yet. Let's see what they have to ask of me. Gypsy Hustled gives me the good ones. Gypsy Hustled, video request. What are your thoughts on self-censorship and political correctness? It is often said that you should not discuss religion or politics in the workplace. Do you feel... I can't see that. This doesn't have as good resolution as the other camera. Do you feel you should censor your opinions at a job so you don't offend other people? I never understood why people get offended by other people's political or religious views. I think many times people choose to be offended because they lack the intellect to formulate a response. For example, of censorship outside the workplace is how it's difficult to discuss Marx with an American because of McCarthyism and lingering Cold War fears. You may also support gay marriage at work or not. You may also feel afraid to tell your boss that you enjoy marijuana. However, drinking whiskey is socially acceptable, while other drugs aren't. Is it acceptable to say you support gay marriage at work or not? Sometimes it is hard to know what is offensive and what isn't because of the various religious doctrines where some people derive their morality. When does someone have a right to be offended? And should corporations enforce political correctness via policy? Can you talk about the double standards in society and whether you believe in engaging in self-censorship so as to not offend others within reason? Do you think people should only voice their true opinions when they aren't around coworkers? Or at church, for example? What makes a venue have a different set of behavioral standards? Thanks. Ooh, that's a good one. Wow. So, video request. What are your thoughts on self-censorship and political correctness? Well, let me start the video by just giving my general ideas on self-censorship and political correctness. Yeah, and I'm a good person to talk to about that because I'm the guy on YouTube who doesn't really have a censor, doesn't have a filter, just says what I think and stuff. And I think everybody should do that. I don't think there should be any censorship when you're doing a video for the whole world to see from the comfort of your own home, and when you're not dropping any specific names of people, because if somebody chooses to get upset with you, offended with you, it has nothing to do with you because you're not, and it has nothing to do with them because they're not talking about you. And if you choose to identify with whoever the person's talking about, that's your choice to identify with it. It's not them pointing at you and saying you are that. That's totally different. See, people get confused and they think that it's the same thing as if you're like at work and somebody, like a bully or somebody, points to you, hey, you are a douchebag faggot, or this is the Jew, or this is the guy who thinks he was abducted by aliens, and then they bully people out and they get confused. And then so like judging somebody who does a YouTube video and talks about stuff is it's one track thinking. You're being simple. You're not distinguishing, and you're not supporting the idea of sharing yourself. You don't understand how important it is for people to express what they really believe. We need to have a society where everybody values expressing what they really believe, because we live in a society where people don't express what they really believe. We live in a society where the people who aren't in positions of power can't express what they really believe because of all the judgmentality around everybody, and people think that you don't have the right to express what you really believe because you're not that category, and you need to shut up. And then the people who are in the positions of power don't express what they really believe because they politics, it's just a game. They want to they want to win. The idea is to win, not to to teach people. And I think, like in politics, if you're going to be a politician, you need to be a philosopher as well. You need to be a teacher. You need to be somebody who explains stuff and explains why you believe the way you do and why other people should believe the way you do. And if they like what you say, then you win the election, But too often we have people who say what they're told to say from their donors, and that's not what they really believe, and then people don't believe them. And right now we live in a world where we don't believe our politicians. I think the Congress has a approval rating of like 15%, and everybody is cynical over their politicians and think they're all lying, because we're all sick of it. But as we know, they just say, they'll lie. They'll just say whatever, and they'll whatever they think people should believe, and then they actually tell us what we believe, like the American people don't want Obamacare, and this is a total lie. American people do want Medicaid. I think they did a poll, 75% or 80% of Americans think that we shouldn't get rid of Medicare at all. And I think even like over 50% think that we should even increase it. But all the politicians like Ted Cruz are like, no, the American people don't want Obamacare. The American people don't want health insurance for everybody. This kind of stuff, just lying, and people see right through it. But a lot of people don't, because people don't know the difference. If you get some guy up, for example, Bill O'Reilly is a great example. Whenever you hear people like express themselves. For example, I remember a couple years ago now, there were these girls who I guess they were voted couple of the year at their high school, and they were a lesbian couple, and Bill O'Reilly was making fun of them, saying that they were just trying to get attention for it. And then a couple of weeks ago, he said he wasn't in favor of I guess there was this sex change. It was a boy who used to be a girl who used to be a boy, and now he's showering with all the girls. And he was saying he got a sex change. This wasn't good, because now he's going to motivate other boys to get sex changes so that they can get their rocks off by showering with girls. I mean, his mind, he projects so much. He thinks that everybody does stuff to try to get a rise out of other people, and that's all they want to do, is to just upset people and piss people off, because it makes them. And he's the guy who gets upset with people and then upsets other people and tries to intimidate people. So he's just projecting. He gets off on pissing people off and getting a rise out of people and getting angry with people. So he thinks everybody else is like that, and people are real, So we need to train regular people. We need to train each other to be real, and to know that if somebody's uploading a video and saying something, that's what they really believe, and they're not saying it to get laid or to try to like get followers. That's another thing of projecting that I get a lot is not that much, but I get occasionally, is especially from non-Americans, because I know who is American, I know who isn't, because I do a lot of videos like what an American thinks about, and I think I have like 70 countries like that. And I get a lot of comments where they're just making crap up. Like in Serbia, they think I'm in the CIA, and I'm like trying to start some like propaganda campaign against Serbians and stuff like this. And then when people say like you Americans or whatever, they think I've got some kind of agenda. And when I'm just trying to express myself and what I really believe. And the reason people think that people who like express what they believe are having an agenda is because that's the world they come from, but that's not the world we want to live in. We want to live in a world where we're all being real, because we all teach each other more that way. If we all shared our ideas about stuff, we'd all understand what everybody believes and why everybody believes what they believe. Paying attention to belief statistics is a really good thing. I have a statistic page, a religious statistics page on my website. Maybe I'll include the link on it of this video. That's a good way to figure out what people really believe. And people are really ignorant in America. And I mean, I consider America one of the smartest countries in the world. We probably Our educational system probably isn't as good as other countries in terms of how we slipped out through the meritocracy. They do it through test scores, and we do it from basically how well the teacher likes you and stuff. But from the grades. But and people in Europe aren't as kind of fundamentalist Christian as we are, so they believe in. They're more pragmatic, you know. They believe in science more. They don't think we were born like 6,000 years ago and stuff. But yeah, I mean, in America, there are a lot of people who just you know, believe really in a simple world, and the only reason they believe that is because that's all they're exposed to. But if we all, you know, told each other about reincarnation and aliens and this wacky stuff, and that marijuana is not gonna like turn you into the devil person and make you like retarded and make the society come crumbling down, you know, then we'll all figure out how it really is. And so it's all based on communication between people. And but we can't communicate if we take the political correctness stuff too far. You know, there's a difference between. We need to realize there's a difference between being direct and honest with somebody in person and doing it in video. You know, and there's a total sliding scale to it, and there's a way to say what you really believe to somebody to their face. You know, but in a way that's respectful of them, and knowing when to say it and when not to say it, you know, like, you know, if somebody says something you disagree with, I think it's perfectly acceptable to just do like this. Now, I wouldn't do that. I consider myself a master. Is that a cricket? Hold on. I'm just curious to see if a cricket got away. A fucking cricket got away, dude. How did that? A little baby cricket got away. All right. Now I know it can happen. I gotta I'm gonna put a seal on the top of my cricket chamber, dude, because I don't want to lose crickets, man. I pay like 10 cents each for those. Anyways, what was I talking about? Yeah, dude. I'm a really good diplomatic person. I know how to say stuff in a way that doesn't upset people, and I know when to say it. You know, like if people are sitting around a table having a conversation, and people are like bam, 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 sharing their ideas. I think it's a little rude to do this if you disagree. You know, if somebody says something you disagree with it, if they ask you, then you should say what you really believe, but you should explain it. Take your time explaining it. Not take too long, but take like a good 10 or 15 seconds to say what you believe and why you believe it. Too many people just say what they believe without saying why they believe it. And I think you should never do that, ever, under any circumstances, unless they make it clear that that's all they want from you. You know, if somebody says, well, do you think, you know, drone strikes in Afghanistan are good? Then in that's a yes or no question. Then I'd just be like, no. But if somebody says, what do you think about drone strikes? And there's a whole bunch of people, I'd stop and I'd think and I'd go, I think they're bad because they kill people and they're just pissing people off. I mean, that's a quick answer with the because clause. And the because clause takes just as long to get across as the answer. You know, it's just a simple extra 2 seconds, you know? So it's pretty much, if you just say what you believe without any answers, without any reasons, then to me that just says that you're stupid and you're just parroting what you're told to believe, you know, because like your favorite TV pundit said it. In third world countries, it's actually a job where people get on TV and they basically tell people what to believe. And in Chile, there's a job called an opinionist, and they get the opinionists on the TV to give their opinions on stuff. And because the poor people in Chile don't understand the concept of having your own opinion about stuff. And if you ask them why, they say because. And if you ask them why, then they say because. And so, and you know, the opinionists up there say really like it's obvious when that they're just getting like that they're just like just trying. They have an agenda. I remember when the Da Vinci Code came out. Now that's kind of like second guessing the Catholicism and everything. And they were Catholic down there, so they had an opinionist up there talking about the Da Vinci Code, and he's talking all trash about the Da Vinci Code, and then he starts saying that it was made poorly and it was filmed poorly and it was and that was going too far. I mean, it was a big budget movie. They had good acting and it was made well. It's just that he was pissed off about the message, so they got carried away and they're being dishonest. And when a small range of people are allowed to have opinions about stuff, there's no competition, and when there's no competition, they don't have to be that good, and so there's the quality of the people with opinions is not good. So we have to find out a way to encourage everybody to have an opinion about everything, and the only way to do that is to encourage people to express their opinion no matter what. So the only way to really do that is to allow people to say the four-letter words and to cuss and to make spontaneous videos that are not like professionally put together, like not comb your hair. I mean, I don't comb my hair and stuff before my videos because I forget to, but I actually think it's cool that I don't comb my hair because then I motivate other people to just make really, really informal videos. It's better to make an informal, unprepared video than to not make a video at all. And I think it amuses me when I get all these trolls, telling me to like delete my YouTube channel and and it's mainly people from talking about other countries, and they don't like what I say about their country. They want me to just delete my whole channel and stop doing videos. But it's better for people to have a culture that encourages people to do the video. So it's better to do a video where you're just being a dick than because these comments come from people who don't have their own videos. So it's like somebody who's never smoked marijuana in their entire life trying to tell somebody who smokes weed all the time what marijuana is all about. And you get people like this all the time. Like, how do you know more about? That's one definition of insanity. Is one person who thinks they know more about something than somebody else who clearly has more has more knowledge about it. You don't tell a rocket scientist how to design a rocket if you're an actor. You don't tell an actor the technique of acting if you're a rocket scientist. People do you're good at what you do a lot of. You're good at what you practice at. You're good at what you're trained at and what you do. And that's another problem with people. They think they're good at stuff that they don't ever do. These people who don't upload any videos, they think they know what YouTube's all about. It's like if people aren't up on the whole subtitle of YouTube is YouTube broadcast yourself, share yourself. It's not YouTube, re-upload copyrighted TV shows and documentaries so that you can try to gain a profit off of the ads on it before your channel gets taken away. I mean, what else is YouTube for if it's not about people expressing their ideas on YouTube? And you can't tell somebody how to say what they're saying, or that's like telling somebody what they should say, which is like telling somebody what to think. It's all tied in. You have to let people talk how they talk. And if you allow people to talk in their own dialects and their own slang and stuff, people are going to understand that dialect and slang. We'll all be able to understand each other better, and we'll have a true meritocracy on what words should be the words that everybody uses and the words that other people don't use and the way to say. I'm proud of myself for motivating people to do videos in the very informal style. And a lot of people, actually trolls, do videos. I inspire trolls to do videos in the informal style. And I'm kind of like people who don't like me, and I think that's cool. I like it, man. I think it's better to, I even said this in another video recently, it's better to, or it's just as good probably, for like some asshole being an asshole on YouTube and talking trash about somebody than some person giving really valid spiritual advice and stuff to people, but as a holier than thou, better than thou special person, because if you're doing it as a special person, well, now in a very professional way, now you're kind of intimidating people and making them feel like they have to do it like you if they're gonna have a valid video, even though they have a full-time job and they don't have the time to do all that. But if some dickhead does a video really informally saying stupid shit, then that's encouraging you to do a video, because you could do a much better job than that guy. So if that guy does it, then why not you do it? Anyways, that's my introduction. So let's just see what these other things that he has. Is it often said that you should not? Oh yeah, it is often said that you should not discuss religion or politics in the workplace. It is. Well, that's not a question, but yeah, it is. It's funny. People are in the habit of not discussing religious or politics in the workplace, or even in the family, because people just get upset, and they think that they don't want you to express your ideas. So then they get angry with you just because they disagree with you, and then it comes to the screaming match. In Chile, I lived there 5 years now. I was married. Even husbands and wives are not, by tradition, they don't even tell each other who they vote for. That's how little communication actually goes on. They voted for president, and I asked my wife who she voted for, and she refused to tell me. And she got angry with the way she said. She was angry with me, like that I would even ask her. She didn't tell me who she voted for and she said, that's not done here. And, in another, that's not done here. Yeah, that's something you'll hear in a third world country all the time. Like you can't take your shirt off in Korea in public, even if you're way out in the mountains. Why? Because it's not done here. Countries where it's not done here because it's not done here, or because you can't. You're at an extreme handicap of having people upload videos expressing themselves. No third world country has people expressing themselves up there because they're crazy judgmental. And, that's why you have all these, that's where wars originally come from. That's why you have all this ethnic strife in the Balkans. Because, that's why in Serbia they thought that I was like in the CIA or something. Because the only people who express themselves, the only time they ever hear anybody have an opinion about anything is when it's propaganda. And if somebody does have an opinion, I guess they get killed, because people kill each other just for being of an ethnic group, So tolerance is the key. You have to be tolerant. And that's the beautiful thing about America, and why America does so well and creates so much, because somebody has a wacky idea, people actually listen to the guy, and they let the guy go and go forward and support him. And like in America, this is probably the only country where I could do videos and do well. Like make money. I made what was it, $287 or something last month just on my YouTube videos. So it's pretty cool, man. I do it for fun. I get paid for it. It's like, yay, boy. Yeah. So political correctness, man. I mean, sometimes people use that as like as another fake thing to try to make themselves appear like they're a nice person, but if they're gonna like get all pissed off at you and make you feel like an asshole just because you told a dirty joke, because they're so cool they would never do that. Well, now they're being narcissistic. They're thinking that their like worldview is better than yours, and it's like, chill out, dude. It's just a joke. I mean, I'm not really racist. I'm not really like sexist or like, I mean, it's just people need to be tolerant in it. And but I mean, there's the whole. You don't want to, I think it's okay to tell jokes like that on a video, and be weird and wacky on a video. But it's different, when you're with a bunch of people. The whole idea of getting upset with somebody for not being politically correct on video is, it's and then getting pissed off at you. It's kind of like somebody peeking inside of your room and getting pissed off at you for walking around your room naked, like, hey, don't you know it's illegal to be nude? It's like, no, it's not. It's illegal to be nude in public, but I'm not in public, I mean, you don't want to walk around naked if you have a big like see-through sliding door and your neighbor is right in front of you. But if somebody has to go out of their way to actually look in you with like binoculars in your room, that's kind of what getting pissed off at YouTube is, like looking at somebody's YouTube video, you have to go to their channel, you have to open their video, and then you have to push play, and then you have to keep watching them for the entire time. That you're going into their space, you're in their world. So they get to act however you want. Like if you're in somebody's house, then you let the person do what they do and say what they say, and if you don't like it, just leave their house. you know. So that's kind of how it is in public, you know, how people should treat it. If you're invited to somebody's party and they're being the host and they're providing all this like food for you or whatever, and they provided the people, then you need to be respectful of them and not kind of take over and try to control the conversation and you know, invade their space. You know, that's the place for the person who invited the party to do, if anybody's going to do it. But you know, the art and science of diplomacy is something that I think you can teach people and has an actual formula to it, and you know, I mean, it's good. I think the whole ageism, you know, giving a little bit more respect for people who are older than you, like what they do in Asia, is good, but not to take it too far. You know, especially nowadays, because young people have more common sense than old people about tolerance, and so young people should definitely stand up more and confront older people, especially, you know, with bosses and stuff. And especially with teachers. Here, let's continue with what he said. Do you feel you should censor your opinions at a job so you don't offend other people? No, I don't think you should censor your opinions at jobs so you don't offend other people. You should not waste people's time. Because you're at job. You should do your job. Just focus on your job, you know. But if some other person starts spouting their opinions and you disagree with it, and they're talking to you like it's a two-way conversation and they want you to give them your opinion, then you should give them your opinion even if you disagree with them. And give them the real opinion. But you know, don't waste people's time. You know, you're there to work, and you're not there to talk about something that doesn't have anything to do with what you're doing. You can do that. You can do that off work. So to me, it has more to do with you know, if you're getting in the way of the work or not. But don't judge people. I never understood why people get offended by other people's political or religious views. Well, the reason, yeah, I know. I don't understand the logic. I don't understand how somebody could be dumb enough to get offended just because somebody doesn't believe what they believe. But I think it happens because people they're not grown up in that environment, and they're not used to it, and it's like taking a fish out of water. You know, if somebody grows up in a house where their parents never told them to let them talk, in our educational system they never expected the student to say anything, then you do it, and they're like, oh, well, I couldn't do it, so you can't do it, you know. I remember I had a meeting. When I was 19, I got busted for peeing behind a shed in this high school where I was tutoring some girl as part of my practicum hours for education department. And because I didn't want to go in the school and look around, and some security guard saw me. And well, I didn't think that he would bust me, and I told him my name, and I didn't think he was going to make a big deal out of it, but they called me out of the middle of a class and told me that I had to leave the education department. And then they brought me to the main teacher, the main head of it, and he was trying to tell me to leave, and I was like, what? No, dude, come on, give me a break. And then he's like, well, you're going to have to cut your hair if you're going to continue in our education department, because I had these big old like dreadlocks, and I was like, well, why? I don't have to do that. And he's like, hey, man, you have it good. When I was your age, I got arrested just for walking across the street because I had long hair. You know, no fair. I couldn't do it, so you can't do it. Like that was logic to a guy who was a professional educator at a university or a college. So I couldn't do it, so you can't do it. You need to tell those people that that's not a reason. A real reason is you have to say with a destructivity. And he actually gave me another reason. He said, you're going to distract the students, which was a better reason than the first reason. That was something you could even argue, you know. But which I would have said, you know, come on, that's a student's problem. They need to focus on what I'm doing. They'll learn tolerance that way. But anyways, so yeah, I think that's why they're just, you know, it's kind of like, you know, that's how That's how abuse gets cycled through generations. Somebody's abused, beat up by their dad, then they're going to beat up their son because like no fair, the son can't talk back to me because I couldn't talk back to my dad. So people have to look at history and have to realize that people have to realize that our society is evolving, and the roles change, and world changes, and you don't have to like be exactly how you were, how your dad or your superiors were when you were growing up. If you just remember how you felt when you were then and how you wished it was different, well, now you're in the opportunity to allow your underlings to be more free. So anyways, I think many times people choose to be offended because they lack the intellect to formulate a response. Yeah, people, they're asked to have a reason, and they're not used to having a reason because they're told on TV what to believe, and the people on TV don't explain why they believe, they're just told. And so when you ask them why, they don't know, and they don't want to appear stupid by not knowing, so then they get upset. And if you lose an argument, what's the big deal? Because now that means that there's only positive that can come from that, because now you learn something. What's wrong with learning something? Oh, I was wrong about that. Thanks for teaching me. Wow. If you win an argument, then you don't need to like pump yourself up like you just kicked their ass. You just taught them something, and you can be happy about that. But it's kind of like, are you supposed to get upset if you lose a soccer game? No, you just lost the soccer game, and maybe if you practice harder, you'll win the next one. Same thing with arguing. Okay. An example of censorship outside the workplace is how it's difficult. It's how it's difficult to discuss Marx with an American because of McCarthyism and lingering Cold War fears. You may also be afraid to tell your boss you enjoy marijuana. Yeah, we do have kind of a stigma on Marxism. Saying I'm a communist, I like communism, is there are a lot of stupid people who just have bad ideas about stuff for no reason. I remember when Obama was president, became recently elected, all these people were upset. They interviewed some old lady, you think the old people would be smarter. Some old lady, I don't like Obama, I think he's a Muslim. She thinks he's a Muslim because his middle name's Hussein and he comes from a country where there are Muslims. And but it's clear that he's a Christian. He went to Reverend Wright's church. He grew up as a Christian. He's obviously a Christian. He says he's a Christian. There's some video where he's like, "No, I'm a Muslim. I'm a Christian." And then people took that. Oh, he had just had a Freudian slip or whatever. It was just a speako. Oh my God, he's Muslim. He said he was Muslim. No, he didn't. He said he was Muslim. Christian. It was just, you should believe somebody. What somebody believes based on what they say, not on what somebody else says about them. And too many people do that. People believe stuff about people just because somebody else says about them. And, so you may also feel afraid to tell your boss you enjoy marijuana. I know. And people are freaked out about marijuana way too much still. I remember in this house I lived in Lafayette, I asked this kid, I had a neighbor, and the neighbor's like a little younger than me, but he had a wife who had a son who was like 18 or something. And I was like, oh man, I want to know where to get weed. And he's like, oh, you should ask, so-and-so, my stepson, if he has weed. And I was like, all right. So next time I saw him, they were together standing out on the side of their house. And I asked the stepson, hey, yo, you know where to get weed? And he's like, what? No. Because he was all freaked out because I was like older guy. Maybe he thought I was going to try to get him busted. And I was actually in the bank the other day. And it was these two like younger guys, like 18-year-olds. And they kind of looked like, like stoners. And the lady at the teller's like, oh, you just moved to Boulder. Why'd you move here? And I go, weed. But the two guys like freaked. They didn't even look at me or pretend I didn't say anything, even though I said it really loud. And the teller looked at me and laughed because they were just freaked out. They're like, oh, you can't say that. You can't say that. People are so freaked out about that, man. And people have tried to bust my chops, like people who I work for. I'm not going to drop any names in the past because of what I said on YouTube. You embarrass us, you, and it actually asked me to delete a bunch of videos and stuff, and I didn't bother to explain to him anything because I didn't want to, risk risk getting paid or anything like that. But yeah, that's fucked up, man. And that, thank God for news outlets like the Young Turks, who actually, when people do abuse their power on other people, they actually make a news out of it. A few months ago, I saw this news story of this lady who was in court for something completely unrelated, but they named their kid Jesus. And the judge ordered them to change the name of their kid. How dare you name it the name of our Lord? You change your son's name. And they actually changed the son's name because the judge told them to, even though they were in court for something completely unrelated. But the Young Turks made a story out of it. And so now they expose that judge. So, thank God for news outlets who expose it when people try to overstep their bounds and their power. Holy shit. I'm sorry. I accidentally pushed the fucking pause button. Holy shit. Oh, whatever. Okay, so anyways, continuing. Good thing I noticed that. I hate talking when it's not recording, dude. Okay, however, afraid to talk about marijuana. However, drinking whiskey is socially acceptable while other drugs aren't. I know, it's crazy, because when you get alcohol, you get all aggressive and angry and pissed off and turn into a dick. Like, I sometimes do that. You smoke weed and you're totally chill and you're philosophized. It's so fucked up that weed's illegal and alcohol isn't. Alcohol is physically more dangerous for you anyway. Anyways, less healthy. Okay. Is it acceptable to say you support gay marriage at work or not? Yes, it's acceptable. Sometimes it is hard to know what is offensive and what isn't because of the various religious doctrines where some people derive their morality. I know, religion making people offended. I know, dude. Fundamentalist people are the worst, especially the fundamentalist Muslims. There's this English guy. He's so funny. And his video went viral. He's this older English guy, and he did this video just ranting against fundamentalist Muslims about how they get offended from all this stuff. And he's like, you moved to our country as immigrants, as refugees trying to get away from this over-judgmental society. So what the fuck are you bringing your shit to our country? If you're offended because somebody has a piggy bank where they store their food, their money, we don't care, and all this stuff, man. And I love that kind of stuff where people just set people straight with your emotions and getting pissed off. And all these people, shared his video. It was awesome. Yeah, man, getting offended just because you're taught to be offended. You're in the wrong, man. Like somebody's saying, oh, don't do that, you'll offend people. If that's your reason, then you should do more of it. Because then you should offend people more so that they can get it out of their system. They can get angry. They can, it's like when you're killing a vampire, you're in those movies, you kill them and the vampire's struggling and yelling and then the loudest and then they die, that's them. That's all the demons getting out of them. These people that's where religion gets fucked up. That's where religion gets hijacked by evil, is when they're saying, thou shalt not walk around in a dress, thou shalt not allow the woman to take her veil off, thou shalt. And so then that's their religion. So if somebody does one of those thou shalt nots, and then they're just, now you're being intolerant of another culture, another type of person. And that's bad, and you need to snuff that out. And the best way to snuff it out is to do it. Do stuff that offends people. Deliberately offend people so that they fucking stop being offended and let them, and then you can get offended that they're offended at you. And you have more of a reason to get offended at them for getting offended at you just for being yourself. So now you are pissed off, and then you can have a fight, and then they'll be like, oh, I'm tired. And be like, well, good. And don't fucking get offended of me again. Like right now, if I were to expose my dick, that's not, and somebody get offended at me, that's their problem, not mine. Everybody has a dick. Everybody knows what a dick looks like. So what the fuck are you afraid of my dick for? You think you're scaring kids? Kids get less offended than that stuff than adults because they're not taught to get offended by it. You have to be taught to get offended by that stuff. You have to teach a kid to be afraid of boobs. I mean, why is it illegal for women to walk around the street and with boobs on, with their boobs out? Why is it illegal for women? If you have a lady with her boobs out on YouTube, the video will get deleted. Why is that? Because of the children. Why are children afraid of boobs again? Children wouldn't be afraid of boobs if they weren't taught to be afraid of boobs. You see your little baby sucking on his mama's tatita, You know, and if some lady next to her takes her tatitas out, the kid's not going to go, "Ah, ah," you know. The kid will scream if he sees a person beating the crap out of somebody in front of him. You know, that kind of stuff, man. So that's the perfect example of people being trained to be offended by stuff. I could give actual examples. I offended somebody for doing a video dancing in my underwear, and they got all offended about it, and they were like talking about the children who would get offended and scared because there was a YouTube video of me dancing in my underwear. I know, it's weird. So I deleted the video, but anyways, and my mom, you know, like my mom's all offended at me right now because of my trailer for my YouTube channel. At the very beginning, I go, I'm a stoner hippie. My mom was livid with me, and she's still livid with me. Because in her idea, so she's 72, in her idea, a hippie is like some kind of a street bum mooch type of a person who's like doesn't have a career or something like that. And so if I admit of being a hippie, then that's what I'm saying I am. But my idea of a hippie is somebody who's multicultural and open-minded, you know, like the flower people from the late 60s. I'm a stoner hippie. You know, so that's her problem, dude. I'm not going to take any responsibility for that. That's her being old. And, you know, I mean, if she presses me and she reminds me, and then I'll go, okay, and then I'll change it, you know. I had on my YouTube, I changed, one of the main reasons I changed my website, the front page of my website, is because I had a picture of Jessica Biel's butt on there. When you click on it, you go to my gym site, because Jessica Biel's butt, you know, you work out, you have a nice butt. But she got offended about that because I guess you can't have women's butts on, you know, like your site because it's like not elegant or something, not high class. So I changed it for my mom. You know, you should bend around for people. You know, your parents. You know, I think it's good to bend as much as you can until it pisses you off, and then so you know it's good to bend to other people's, but not too much. You know, especially your parents. Okay. Anyways. Yeah, I mean, how do you know what should be offensive or not? Well, if it's hurtful to somebody, if it makes them feel, if it attacks them personally, you know, you don't want to say bad stuff about somebody personally. Like don't try to embarrass somebody, you know, like sitting in a room with a bunch of people. This guy here thinks that this is so and so and that's stupid. Well, instead of saying that, you can just say, some people think this and that's dumb because da 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 da, and nobody in the room has to know you're talking about that dude, you know. Only that dude's going to know you're talking about that dude. So he has no right to get upset with you. He has a right to express his opinions and try to argue his point, but not to get upset with you. You know, like I get on some, you know, countries, Serbia, Croatia, Australia, people get really pissed off at me, and then they insult me personally just because I said some things about their country that they didn't like. And I wasn't even saying bad things about their country. I was just saying like some things that I guess that I didn't like or that, you know, or just made a judgment that maybe they disagreed with. But I'm talking about their whole country. I'm not going after them personally. If they're going to identify with that, then they can argue the point. But instead, they attack me personally, you know, and that's totally different, dude. Attacking somebody personally or trying to put somebody on the spot in front of everybody else. You know, you're not putting somebody on the spot if you're just expressing yourself on YouTube for everybody to watch, you know. So anyways, when does someone have a right to be offended? And should corporations enforce political correctness via policing? People have a right to be offended when, you know, you attack somebody personally. I don't think people should be allowed to do slander. I think people sue each other too much for slander. I'd never sue somebody for slander against me, because if somebody are going to believe somebody, if somebody spreads a bunch of lies about me and other people believe it, I'm going to blame the people who believe it more than the person who's spreading the lie. The person who's spreading the lie is just, you know, I feel sorry for him for having to stoop that low. But the people who are going to choose to believe him, it's like, all right, dude, well, you know, then they can learn when they find out what I really believe and who I really am like. Then they can learn that they were wrong, and then they won't do it again. So I can actually use that to my advantage. But yeah, like spreading lies about somebody, you know, on a professional level, a big scale level, like, you know, running for politics or whatever, it should definitely be illegal, and I think people should be able to sue each other. But that's complicated, and that's a whole nother video. But yeah, corporations, political correctness via policy. Yeah, you shouldn't be allowed to to tell a girl that, like blackmail a girl, suck my dick, or else you're gonna get fired, or I'd like you to, strip for me or whatever. You shouldn't be allowed to, expose yourself to another workmate or something. So yeah, policy definitely. I think corporations should have policies, but they should have their policies should be transparent and on their website and everything, so that people can scrutinize them. And like Walmart, everybody should know that Walmart does drug testing for people, so that everybody knows what they're about and knows that they're a bunch of Nazis, and then people can always, and once enough people start saying bad things about Walmart having that drug policy, then they won't have it anymore, because they don't want too many people to be pissed off at them. Okay, so can you talk about double standards in society and whether you believe in engaging in self-censorship so as not to offend others within reason? Double standards in society. Yeah, double standards are... Oh shit, battery's about to die. Double standards is when you let certain people have their opinions and other people not. So the boss gets to tell you his opinion, but you can't tell him your opinion. That's bullshit. I'm going to have to cut this off really quick. Yeah, you should say your true opinions about coworkers. Definitely at church. What makes a venue for different set of behavioral standards? Yeah, church is definitely the best place, and school is the best place. But not work, because work is what you're supposed to do work. Okay, peace out.